We're very excited to be able to offer you guys the chance to drink this amazing and beautiful tea, White Cloud. Long ago in the Tang and Song dynasty, trees were brought both by humans and spread wildly all throughout Fujian, and many of those wild gardens and their descendants exist even today. On our Global Tea Hut trip, we went to Anxi and we visited old growth tea forest there with trees that were around 100, 200 years old. This tea comes from a similar South Fujianese wild forest with trees that are all around 100 to 200 years old, and a couple, 2 or 3 trees that are even older than that, 250 years old. These trees are completely wild, and as there has been a boom in more ecological, what we call Shangtai tea, that is living tea essentially, more of these mountains are being protected and preserved by people who then harvest small amounts of the tea, picking at random so that the trees can rest. So they pick in cycles from different groves throughout the mountain and the forest. And even with the Anxi tea that we visited ourselves, we had the idea that this tea, because these leaves are so large and the tea trees so old, that there would be something powerful and magical if we didn't process the tea, for the tea was completely unprocessed. In other words, just withered and sun-dried. Some could call this tea a white tea, but it's actually not a white tea because the trees themselves do not have the mutation to have white buds, which is a characteristic of white tea. It is just processed like a white tea, or you could say that it's an unprocessed oolong, because this is certainly an oolong varietal of tea. It's a descendant and a relation of the varietal Shuixian from northern Fujian, though this is not Shuixian, it is just a descendant of those trees, and probably came down already in the Song dynasty. Song is 960 to 1279, so these trees are the wild descendants of some of those trees that perhaps were brought by people, and some also spread naturally and wildly. Having the tea being unprocessed leaves the qi and energy and vibrancy of the leaves there in a kind of natural way. It creates a tea that kind of suits the environment and suits those trees. The best tea processing is always conducted in a way that suits and harmonizes with the step before it. So the step before, you could say, determines the step that comes after. So the type, the garden and the varietal determines the harvest time determines the withering determines the firing, and so on. In this case, having a really simple processing where it's just withered and then sun-dried matches the wildness and vivaciousness of these forests and these old trees. So there's real sweet, tender, gentle, feminine quality to this beautiful tea.
This tea is really nice for aging, so if you want to drink it now, it's great, and if you want to put it away into storage, it's another good option. And it's a really flexible tea in the way that you can brew it, meaning you can steep it really short, you can steep it really long, you can use a small amount of leaves or even a large amount, and it really won't over steep or over brew. It won't go bitter. I've had a chance to brew it in at least 3 different methods now. Leaves in a bowl, in a side handle, and I've had a chance to boil it. And it's been just really marvelous no matter what I've done to it, how short I've steeped it or how long.
We compressed it due to transportation. We had to get it here to Taiwan. It actually probably would have been better loose leaf, but we had to do that. So it comes in these little 50-gram bricks that are really beautiful, and it's an amazing chance to drink some truly wild living tea that is processed as little as possible, so the human touch is as light and gentle as possible, which leaves a real strong and powerful qi from the forest that is uplifting and bright. So there's a real clarity and brightness to this tea that clears the palate, clears the body, and clears the mind as well.